Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to introduce a new term, which is the reserve replacement ratio, or the triple R, or as it's well known as the RRR. The reserve replacement ratio is a key metric that is so important for most of the companies, especially the oil and gas companies, for them to know if they are performing good or bad, if they are in a growth era or if they are declining, if they are sustainable. And it's a key metric, as I said, to make them able to formulate their future plan, because if they are sustaining, this is a good, but if they are not, then they will close the company. So we'll start by an introduction. The reserve replacement ratio in the oil and gas industry is a key metric that measures how effectively a company is replacing the produced reserves with the new discoveries and reserve additions. So it's all about sustainability. So what we need our company to be sustainable, and let's define mathematically how we are calculating the RRR. For each fiscal year or the year of production, you have produced some of your reserves, the reserves that are the proved reserves that you have counted and it's well known for you. So each year you have produced a volume. Compared to this produced volume, what are the reserve additions that you have successfully added to your portfolio? What could be a reserve addition? You have a near field exploration, you have exploration wells. These wells have accessed new volumes, and if you are drilling appraisal wells or you're drilling infill wells, all of these wells are adding reserves. If you have a well and you have added a new layer, a new zone, which were not considered as a reserve, considered it was considered as a resource, a contingent resource. For example, what are the resources? These are things that we find. We have seen it through our logs. We have seen it through our analogs, and we cannot say that these are reserves if we have added these zones or drilled wells for them, then we have transferred them from resources to reserves. The sum of all of these reserve additions annually is divided by the annual production. If the RRR value is 100%, then it's sustainable. You have produced and you have added the same volume that you have produced from your reserves. So this guarantees somehow your sustainability and your company's growth. So as an example, we have this reserve. We produced annually. Let's give example. We have 10 million barrels of oil. We have produced 3 millions, but we have drilled wells and added volumes and reserves that could make the reserve additions as 6 million barrels. So the RRR is 2 or 200%. So we have an increase in the reserves. Another example, it contradicts the first one. If we have an annual production, and this annual production, let's say it's 3 million barrels compared to the 10 you have, and then you have added just 1 million of reserve additions. So your company's reserves is just 100, is lower than 100%. So this is a lower year's performance concerning the sustainability of your company. So let's give an example of a growth in a company. This is the first year. You have reserves. You produced hydrocarbons but added more. It's more than 100% as the RRR. You produced but added more. You produced but added more. So as you can see, the reserves of the company is increasing. Although you have lots of challenges, you have produced the volume in the first year lower than the second year, and the third year is lower than the second year, although you have a positive reserve replacement ratio. So this guarantees the sustainability of the uh, oil company. And the real cases are not growth and and sustainability and having lower portfolio, but you have multiple ups and downs. You have increase in the annual production compared to these reserve additions, so you have less than 100% of reserve replacement ratio, and then you have better portfolio, and then you have lower. But as you can see, the whole pack of the reserve is declining. So presented before you is an example of a company. It has, let's say, a new asset, an exploration well, and appraisal wells that added about 50 million barrels of oil. The first year they produced 8 million, but they added 12 million from appraisal and exploration and so on. Then they had produced 9, and then they have added 17, produced 12 and added 8. So as you can see in the beginning of the company, we have an average of reserve replacement ratio above 100 or above 1, which as you can see, the reserves impact is increasing. By the year 8, it started to get lower and lower until they have sold all of their assets as a negative reserve additions. They have sold about 27 million barrels of oil to another company. So by the year 14, they have closed the company and sold their assets, and they would be a success because or failure accordingly. It depends on how they manage their portfolio. But as you can see, this is how we can have a look on the performance of the company from the reserve replacement ratio point of view. If you are in a company, because this is the trigger that made me made this video. If you are in a company and you do not know about how to get these data from your company's 50 years old or 60 years old, that you cannot grab all of these data. But actually, what you can do, and this is what I've actually done. Most likely, all of the agencies or associations you are reporting two of the main numbers. Each year, your company reports the recoverable volume, which is the ultimate recoverable volume, and the reserves. So each year, you will have these two numbers. What you can do, the uh, uh, sub you subtract the reserves from the recoverable volume, then you will have the cumulative production. Each year, you have a cumulative production and the reserves that sums up for the ultimate recoverable volume. So you'll do this for the all the years you have, and then you can measure the reserve additions. It could be by negative, by the way, if you have sold some of the assets, so if you have some issues related to wells early breakthrough of the water, so you have lost some reserves and so on. So these reserve additions are so simple. You just subtract the ultimate recovery of the year 2 from the year before. So you will have the reserve additions, and you can easily know the annual production from the both of the year 1 and year 2 cumulative production. You just subtract them. Having the annual production and the annual reserve additions, you can easily grab the reserve replacement ratio easily for all of the years and so on, so you can evaluate your company's performance. And presented before you is some an internet graph that I've found. You can see that you have lots of proven reserves and also the reserve replacement ratio. Most of the values of the reserve replacement ratio throughout the production years is above 100, so it's a sustainable company, and we have seen this impact on the proven reserves of this company. So thank you. I don't want to make it a huge video.